Hello, this is Pat Sicantelli, Superintendent of the Aurora City Schools. I'm going to share with you today a presentation that'll give you information on why we are going to have a levy issue this May. It is a 5.9 mil operating levy to benefit the children and the staff for the Aurora City Schools. The Aurora City Schools has a $34.4 million budget. Our operating expenditures are from the following categories. As you can see, the salaries and fringe benefits take up 86% of our total expenditures. The rest of it is just 14% in total. We've worked hard over the last 5 years to keep our expenditures low. As you can see from this graph, we've kept our non-personnel expenditures down. We have had a decrease over the last 5 years of just over 10% in that cost. Our salaries and benefits have increased 10.5% in that same time frame, but that's still a very modest increase. To illustrate that, our next table shows you that over the last 7 years, our staff increases have been very modest. As you can see, ranging from 0 to 1.25%, with an average of just under 1% for the last 7 years. So we've kept our staff expenditures as low as we possibly can and been as fiscally prudent as we can possibly be. Our operating revenue is as follows. As you can see, most of it's from our general property tax. If you remember the first slide, that our expenditures are $34.4 million. Our revenue at this point is $34 million. So we are working at a deficit this year of about $400,000, which is why we need new money. We get most of our money from general property tax. We do get other monies from other revenue sources, but predominantly it's from local revenue and then some state revenue. There are two types of millages in Ohio. The inside millage is an unvoted millage. Each municipality organization has a total of 10 mills by the Ohio Revised Code. The Aurora City Schools has 5.6 of those inside mills. Now that revenue does grow or increase as our valuation in our community rises. But the predominant amount of our millages is from a voted millage. As you can see, 46.3 mills. That revenue does not grow, and that's an important thing to understand in school finance. In House Bill 920 that was passed in 1976 limits that revenue from growing. So this current millage of 5.9 that we're asking for here on the ballot in May will generate $3.7 million. 5 years from now, this will essentially still generate $3.7 million, regardless of whether our valuation goes up significantly in our community or not. So as an example to illustrate that, if let's just say in the next year, 50 new homes were built in Aurora, at an average cost of $300,000, that would add $15 million to the total valuation within our community. Home values are assessed at 35% for tax purposes, so that would be an increase in $5.25 million in valuation. But because only the inside millage, which was the 50.56 mills, would have the additional revenue, it would only generate an additional amount of monies at $29,400. And that would be with the addition of 50 new homes at $300,000. What happens is the current homeowners get a reduction in their millage, offsetting that increase. So again, essentially, there is no increase in total revenue. As an example, here are the actual valuations for Aurora in the past 9 years. You can see right around 2010, 2011, actually property values started to go down. So you saw decreases in our valuations. They've just now started to go up again. And even with all the building that's happened in our community in the last couple of years, our total growth is just over 1.7% over those 9 years. That's an additional $60,000 in revenue. So in the course of 9 years, $60,000 on a $34 million budget is a very insignificant increase. Therefore, we need to go back and get additional monies from local levies to offset what our increases in our expenses. This is an expenditure and revenue growth chart. You can see that the blue line is the expenditures and the green line the revenue. Revenues in school funding, as I mentioned, are flat. You can see the expenditure line going up. As hard as we've worked to keep those expenditures at bay, they do go up over the course of several years. You can see in fiscal year 2017, the blue line goes above the green line. This is where we're at right now. We are currently spending more money than we're taking in, again, with no real ability to increase our revenue. You'll see that gap will get larger and larger. The second graph illustrates what will happen if we can pass this levy. So you'll see the green line, again, the revenue line, now trends upward. But after the first 2 years of trending upward, which will collect levy monies. The first year we only collect part of the levy monies because in the fiscal year we don't start collecting monies until the calendar year of 2018. But you can see in fiscal year 19, 20, and 21 it starts to plateau again. With that expenditure line going up, you can see somewhere in the future, not distant future, that line will exceed that revenue line again. So here are some of just the basic facts of our levy. It's a 5.9 mil operating levy. It's continuing. It'll then cost $207 per $100,000 of valuation for your home. This levy then will generate $3.7 million each year for the purposes of operating our school system. There's a brief description there of what a mill is, and as I mentioned before, that mill is assessed at 35% of the value of a home's market value. So the last new operating levy money that was passed was in November of 2012. We do have a strong record of levy passage, but we have to guard against the it'll pass, it always passes mentality and make sure everybody can get to the polls. In November of 2007, we did lose a new money issue, as you can see from the numbers there. We passed that same issue, though, back in March of 2008 by a better margin, which allowed us to then increase our revenues. As you can see, it's about a 5-year cycle for the levies. 2007 when we asked for monies, then 2012, and then again here in 2017. In 2012, we did pass a 5.9 mil, just like this one, levy by just over 200 votes. So you can see the margin was very tight. I think our story is outstanding here in the Aurora City Schools. We do have a proud tradition of academic excellence. We're a leader in being strong academically and also being efficient financially. We've been designated as America's most challenging high schools by the Washington Post, America's top high schools by Newsweek, and a gold medal school by U.S. News and World Report. All three of those prestigious organizations rank only the top 1 to 2% of all the schools in the entire nation, and we're in that ranking for all three of those reports. Also, it's within our state. Our performance index, which is the achievement ranking of our district, scored us in the top 1 to 2% of all the districts in Ohio, while our costs are in the 21st percentile. We believe that we have a very lean operation, and it's a great bang for the buck in the Aurora City Schools. We have a proud tradition of financial efficiency, as I mentioned. The Ohio Auditor gives a state award. We've won that now 6 consecutive years in a row. We have very clean audits. Our Treasury Department is outstanding, and the auditor has given them those commendations over the last 6 years. We received an Energy Star certificate from the United States EPA, designating us as a district that works hard to be environmentally strong and to be fiscally prudent in that area. We've saved over $500,000 in energy savings in the past 5 years. You can see from this table that our results are an economic value. The first side of the table on the left-hand side illustrates the pupil to administrator ratio. The higher the number, the better the ratio is. It means the lower number of administrators you have. As an example, you could compare Aurora to West Geauga, and you can see that they have twice as many administrators per student ratio than we have. We keep our administrative numbers very low. Our district expenditure per pupil with these comparative districts, if you look on this table, we're the lowest of all the comparable districts. As an example, that's just a per child expenditure rate. And some of those numbers don't look significantly different. When they do look, they will look different when you extrapolate this out. As an example, on this table, what we've done is we've taken our expenditure per child and multiplied it by the 2,900 students that we have in the district. And that gives you an actual difference in dollars. So for us to spend the dollars that Solon spends, as an example, we'd have to spend $7.4 million per year more. Hudson, 4.8. Beechwood, that is not a typo, $28.5 million per year they spend, higher than what we spend here in Aurora. So you can see, again, we've been fiscally conservative. We've been able to manage our money well, and we are spending much less money than our neighboring school districts. What has changed that we need more money, though? Well, one of the things that's changed, the most significant change really, is that we have less state support. In 2011, 27.8% of our total budget was from the state. In 2017, this year, fiscal year, it'll be 23%. There was a change in the budget several years ago, and they eliminated the tangible personal property tax. That has cost the Aurora City Schools $2.4 million per year in state revenue. In fact, if you look at this table on the left-hand side, you'll see the state average for districts is to receive 45.7% of their total funding from the state. So Aurora is very, very locally funded. And I'll say again, this is not a revenue issue, or this is a revenue issue, not a spending problem. we've had our money cut from our state funding source. So what is the tax bill for comparable districts? Well, if you look at this list, again, these are a lot of the districts we compare ourselves to. This is the actual tax bill from 2017 per $100,000 of valuation. So in Aurora, if you have a home, you'll pay $1,873 for your services from the school district, the city, and the county. That compares very favorably to all the other districts. In fact, we rank at the very, very bottom. If you were to look at this chart and remember that this revenue, this millage, if it's passed, would generate $207 in revenue. If you add that to the current figure on there, we would be $2,080. That will still put us at that bottom of this list. And on this list, Bay Village just had a levy this last year. Chagrin Falls has a current levy this year. Rocky River has a levy. Mayfield had one last year. Strongsville has a levy this year. North Royalton has a levy this year. Brecksville has a levy this year. Twinsburg has a levy this year. You can see it's not uncommon. Many school districts have to go back and generate additional dollars in order to operate. One thing to remember too about property taxes, many homeowners believe that the schools get 100% of their property taxes. We do get the bulk. 76% of your property taxes do go to the Aurora City Schools, but 9% goes to the city of Aurora and 15% goes to Portage County. So common questions about a levy. Will I ever see the taxes decrease? Yes, as we talked about, as more houses are built, each homeowner can see a small reduction in their levy because that same amount of money is spread out over more homeowners. Also, it's important to know that just this past December, 1.52 mils came off the tax rolls in Aurora because there was a bond issue that was approved. That was for the first addition to Aurora High School, which included the auditorium, the varsity gym, the media center, library, and some extra classrooms. That has now been retired and is now off the tax rolls. People ask, didn't we just pass a levy? Yeah, we did. In November, we passed a renewal. There are 3 different types of levies in Ohio. There are 5-year levies, 10-year levies, and continuing operating levies, or levies. We have 3 5-year levies. So in our Aurora City Schools, every 5 years, you're going to see a ballot issue for a renewal that'll have to be renewed within a 5-year time frame. So we are on the ballot 3 out of every 5 years. Our levy cycle for new money has been close to 5 years. So it turns out that we're probably going to be on the ballot most often 4 times in a 5-year cycle. One other question, we have $7 million. Why do we need 5.9 mils? Well, due to inflationary measures, we are currently in deficit spending. Because our revenues are flat and our expenditures are going up, that line has exceeded that revenue line. So levies don't generate more revenue over the years, and that the expenses continue to go up. So we've got to continue to increase our revenues, and the only way to really do it is through local property tax increases. Also know that the current rollover that we have of $7 million on our $34 million budget actually ranks us in the bottom quartile of all districts. Most districts keep more money as a rollover than we have. So what will the cuts be due to a levy failure? We're going to eliminate 1 school resource officer. We do have 2 currently in the district. We would be down to 1. We'll increase the pay to participate fees for athletics. Also, the board contributes 1/3 of the AP test fee, and that'll be eliminated. Personnel, we're going to eliminate 5 employees from the district. Also, with the school resource officer and 1 employee from an outside agency, it'll be a total of 7 employees. Supplementals, we'll eliminate supplemental positions to cut money. We'll eliminate field trips and consolidate some busing stops. And then there'll also be a significant reduction in our professional development budget. Each of these will have an impact on our overall programs and our ability to educate our students. We are hopeful to not have to put these into place. Our strategy, this levy is necessary. We've had state cuts in funding, $2.4 million per year. This revenue too is just essential to maintain our current academic programs. We're not looking to add anything, add any employees or staff, add any buildings or any programs. We just want to maintain our current outstanding educational offerings. Levies are effective life for Ohio districts. As I mentioned in the other slide, there are many school districts that are on the ballot, and many have to return every 3 to 5 years. We'll be transparent with facts and figures. We think we have a great story to tell. If there's any information that you want on our expenditures or where the money goes, we'll be happy to share that. And that these dollars are necessary for us to maintain our district performance and meet all the accountability measures. We have things that we have to do for our students that have special needs, or our students who are identified as gifted. We have programs for those students that are expensive. We want to have those things for those kids, and we want to be able to meet all those performance demands and continue to perform in that top 1 to 2% in the state. So we're working to maintain our excellence. We'd appreciate your support. On May 2nd, we have a 5.9 mil operating levy for the Aurora City Schools. Thank you for your participation.